Thank you for joining CEEN Caribbean News. I'm Kalila Enriquez. They say when America sneezes, the Caribbean catches a cold. So with the shutdown of nearly all U.S. government services on Tuesday, will the Caribbean be affected? Now, you may have heard of the shutdown over a bitter budget impasse. House Republicans are refusing to support the budget unless President Barack Obama changes key elements of his health care policy dubbed Obamacare. It means thousands of government workers didn't get paid this month end. Economist Dr. Davidson Dawa says if this isn't resolved soon, it could end up affecting the Caribbean.
The American economy is a world-leading economy. And if that economy is disturbed in any way or form, then it will affect every other economy. You know, when Wall Street cracks, the whole world cracks with it. I wouldn't be too quick to say we're going to have problems yet, because I'm almost certain somebody will have some sense and they will try to resolve that problem forthwith. If it's only a couple of days that there's a shutdown, then we will not feel the effects of it. But if it goes beyond a week, then Jamaica will definitely be feeling the effects.
According to Dawe, jobs will be immediately affected, and that could have an impact on Caribbean citizens who work for the U.S. government and typically send money back home.
The kind of revenue that was filtered into the United States will be affected, since employment in the United States will rise, since there's going to be a furlough. And when there's a furlough, and as I've listened to the numbers, they say almost 800,000 people will be out of work. And of course, I'm sure some of those are of Caribbean descent. So it will in fact have. And not only that, but it will affect the families also who are responsible for helping through the remittances and so on.
But that's not the only problem that could arise if the U.S. government doesn't resolve this situation soon. Dawa says trade with the U.S. could also come to a halt, and that could mean big losses for Caribbean exporters.
We're going to also have a problem with exporting our products to the United States, because even that will have to be on a standstill for a while, because the people working in those areas might not be on the job anyway. So we can see that it is in fact going to have some kind of effect on the Caribbean. And of course, you know, it will have a greater effect on us than it will have on anybody else, since we are an emerging economy.
In other news now, 2 more Caribbean countries have confirmed cases of the swine flu or H1N1 virus. Barbados has confirmed 4 cases, including 1 death. The Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPA, based in Trinidad and Tobago, confirmed the cases this week. 6 other samples tested negative. Now, CARPA also confirmed 6 cases in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's out of 11 suspected cases sent to the lab. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says matters are under control and they have 3,000 tablets of the antiviral treatment. If necessary, he says they can also get more from the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO. Over in Barbados, Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Elizabeth Ferdinand is recommending the over-the-counter drug Tamiflu for persons in high-risk groups. Symptoms of the swine flu are similar to symptoms of the regular flu. These include fever, coughing, runny nose, and sore throat. Health officials say persons with flu-like symptoms should stay away from work or school until 24 hours after the fever goes away. In news from Jamaica, the government has submitted a second letter of intent and a supplementary memorandum of economic and financial policies, MEFP, to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The announcement was made on Tuesday in Parliament by Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips. Dr. Phillips informed the House that the additional documentation was submitted to the fund on September 13. The Finance Minister explained that the document provided the country's detailed plans on tax reform. He made this recommendation, or the revelation, as he updated Jamaicans about the country's extended fund facility with the Washington-based multilateral.
Unlike the aborted standby agreement, this program involves major front-loaded adjustments and reforms which are designed to restore growth and place debt on a firm downward path. Accordingly, and in line with normal practice, the government of Jamaica on the 13th September submitted to the fund a second letter of intent and a supplementary memorandum of economic and fiscal policies, in which we outlined an appreciably strengthened policy framework.
Meanwhile, Dr. Phillips noted that the fundamentals of the IMF program remain the same. He also informed the House that the government will table the omnibus tax incentive legislation by October 31.
The foundation of the program remains debt sustainability and improved competitiveness. In the main, the supplementary Memorandum of Economic and Financial Policies elaborates on the framework for the reform of the tax incentives regime. The MEFP sets out the principles that will guide the reform of the tax incentive system, including the simplification of the tariff structure and also the introduction of a system of tax credits that would be applicable across all sectors and which will replace sector-specific incentives that currently exist.
A confident Dr. Phillips also asserted that Jamaica will pass its second IMF test, as well as achieve a primary surplus balance of 7.5% for the financial year 2013-2014. Jamaica's second review is expected by the end of the year. Dr. Phillips says the government is assured that the economy will grow on a sustained basis.
I can assert with confidence that all quantitative performance criteria and structural benchmarks for the second review will also be met, and we remain on track to meet the 7.5% primary balance for 2013-14.
Dr. Phillips' update follows Monday's announcement by the IMF board that it has approved Jamaica's first review under the 4-year loan arrangement. This approval paves the way for the country to receive US $30.6 million in additional funding. And Dr. Phillips explained that the IMF's disbursement of US $30.6 million will be received immediately. He was responding to questions from the Shadow Finance Minister, Audley Shaw.
With the expected drawdown of $30.6 million US dollars, is that immediate or is it towards the end of the year?
The drawdown is expected to be immediate. We have in addition the expectation of funds coming from the other multilaterals towards the Q3 and in Q3 and in December towards the end of the third quarter here.
Meanwhile, Dr. Phillips noted that the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, should contribute approximately $330 million US dollars by the end of the year. Trinidad and Tobago's Industrial Labor Court resumed on Monday. The rights and regulations afforded to contract laborers was a major point of discussion. CNC3's Melissa Williams reports.
The pomp and ceremony which accompanied the opening of the 2014 law term was absent, but the message delivered at the 2014 opening of the Industrial Court was just as important. With the Chief Justice, Attorney General and other officials from the government and the trade union movement in attendance, Industrial Court President Justice Deborah Thomas Felix said she was concerned about contract employment in the public sector, particularly the fact that job security and benefits for workers have been affected.
What is emerging in Trinidad and Tobago is a number of contracts awarded to persons for very short periods, such as 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months, as opposed to longer-term contracts for between 2 to 5 years.
The Industrial Court President said while contract employment does have its advantages, workers have no rights and representation under it, and it also poses a threat to the trade union movement.
A person with such a contract is not considered to be a worker within the meaning of the Industrial Relations Act of Trinidad and Tobago. This denial of the legal right of representation and to collective bargaining to ordinary citizens is something which, in my view, should not be overlooked or be taken lightly.
She adds because of contract employment, the public sector has also been weakening.
This is a continuous process that is disruptive, undermines the building of strong, effective teams, and can adversely affect the productivity of the department.
The Industrial Court President believes the time has come for government to revisit contract employment, especially if it wants good public service delivery. Melissa Williams, CNC3.
In other news, a diplomatic row could be brewing between Caribbean neighbors Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The diplomatic relations between the two took a turn for the worse when an immigration policy change in the DOMREP resulted in Haiti recalling its ambassador on Monday. The Haitian government says Ambassador Fritz Sineas has been recalled for consultations. Now, what exactly led to such a sudden move? Haiti is concerned that hundreds of thousands of its nationals living in the DR could have their citizenship revoked and be deported after a landmark ruling by the DR's Constitutional Court. The DOMREP High Court ruled that children born in the country to foreign parents or aliens in transit who came to the country after 1929 were not eligible for Dominican citizenship. The court instructed the Central Electoral Board to conduct a thorough audit of birth records since June 21, 1929, to identify persons to whom the ruling would apply. In other news, as we reported on Monday, the Trinidad and Tobago government and the opposition are at odds over the country's business ties to Canadian construction firm SNC-Lavalin. In the House on Friday, opposition Member of Parliament Combe Imbert filed a motion requesting that the government terminate all ties with SNC-Lavalin. According to Imbert, the World Bank's September 18 blacklist of corrupt companies includes 115 SNC-Lavalin subsidiaries. Imbert also used the opportunity to criticize High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago, Gerard Latulippe. Latulippe resigned as Solicitor General for Quebec in 1987. According to Imbert, his resignation was due to allegations of conflict of interest and improper practice relating to SNC-Lavalin deals. However, the Canadian ambassador has denied the claims. He says such a baseless personal attack is not only offensive, but also tarnishes his position in Trinidad and Tobago. Meanwhile, Trinidad and Tobago's Communication Minister Gerald Hadid says Imbert's attack on the Canadian High Commissioner has created a diplomatic mess with far-reaching consequences. Hadid says Trinbagonians living in Canada have been calling in fear that Imbert's comments could cost TNT support from the Canadian government. And coming up, Jamaica gets tough on cyber criminals.